What a great honour it is for me to follow in the footsteps of Rod Kemp and John Roscombe. My role is very simple, and that is basically to say happy birthday. If I had a cake, I'd pop out of it, but I'm just here to say happy birthday. We are here to celebrate the future of the Institute of Public Affairs. 75 years young, I like to say, because there is so much more for us to do. And I speak on behalf of the entire IPA board when I say that we are so proud of the fact that the Institute of Public Affairs is stronger than ever. To look around this room and see brimming with supporters, it's quite magnificent. And all down to a decision 75 years ago. And as you saw on that video, and I make no apologies for repeating this because we are very proud of our past. As the Second World War drew to a close and socialism was on the march and the Labor Party had been elected federally, and the ideas of the free market were not popular. God, that sounds familiar, doesn't it? It's a little bit scary. But here's the difference. In 1943, about a dozen men from big business, let me say that again, from Australia's biggest companies, gathered together to form the Institute of Public Affairs because they understood that we would need a voice to confront the false but alluring promises of socialism, of big government, and nanny state intervention. And yes, as you know, we face similar challenges today, sadly on both sides of politics. Both sides of politics have given in to pushing ideas that we know have failed people over time. And here's one of my pet hates, a mark of shame that I've written a lot about. Our National Stock Exchange, for example, has a set of corporate governance rules, 55 pages of rules that tell companies what to do. Nowhere, not once in those 55 pages, is there any mention of the words grow shareholder wealth as a core goal. Well, the IPA exists today because we are proud of free markets and we understand the morality of free markets. We champion ideas that allow us to flourish as human beings. Now imagine today finding a group of men or women from big Australian companies who stand up, who enter the ring, who engage in the battle of ideas on this front. It's absolutely unthinkable. In fact, I know that because I spoke at a recent Business Council of Australia event and I suggested they do precisely that, and there was silence. There were a few mutters about corporate social responsibility, but apart from that, pretty much silence. Today, instead, a company gets a tweet from some anonymous person on Twitter complaining about a Sky News host, accusing them of being a sexist or a racist or a misogynist, and the company folds. They pull their advertising dollars from Sky. They don't stand up to the bullies, they capitulate. Well, the founders of the IPA, C.D. Kemp, G.J. Coles, Sir Keith Murdoch, and W.I. Potter, these were the original voices of freedom and economic prosperity in this country. And we secure our future by honouring that past. These men understood one fundamental and constant truth, and that is that Western civilization, in the end, it's just a set of ideas. It's not set in concrete, it's not like the law of physics. Prosperity is not preordained. Western civilization is a story of ideas, tried and tested over time, a set of values that has allowed individuals to prosper. And these ideas and these values survive for only so long as we ensure their survival. And your belief in freedom, your commitment to this country and your support for us, this is what will guarantee the future of freedom in Australia. And tonight we celebrate 75 years ago that created a powerhouse in freedom. And you are part of that here tonight. The IPA's first publication was called Looking Forward. And it was an 80-page plan, economic and social reconstruction for the country right after the Second World War. And I want to read to you what a couple of people said about that plan. The bulletin back then said, "This plan is by far the most comprehensive and intelligent set of inquiries and recommendations concerning post-war problems that has yet to be published by any body in Australia or any government department." Sir Robert Menzies, who drew on Looking Forward at that very famous Unity conference in 1944 in Canberra, when he was drawing together all those disparate anti-Labor forces to create the Liberal Party, he described the IPA's plan as the finest statement of basic political and economic problems made in Australia for many years. Now, I know that the IPA's work today, it would absolutely thrill our founders, because we are an even bigger powerhouse today of amazing people advocating the best ideas, producing research of the highest standards, and driven by convictions as passionate as ever. And we never rest on our laurels, so our ambitions just get bigger and bigger, and we continue, of course, to look forward. I like to call us at the IPA Reagan-style optimists. Ronald Reagan was once described, as you may know, as an optimist in a party that had acquired a habit of pessimism. It's a bit like Australia. And it's been 5 days since the Victorian election, 5 long days since Victoria was confirmed as the Massachusetts of Australia, and we're still optimistic. It's been a pretty dismal week in Canberra too, in case you've noticed, but yes, we're still optimistic because we know what's at stake, we understand the depths of the challenge, and we know that Liberal values cannot depend on the ups and downs of the Liberal Party. With a few fine exceptions here tonight, the rest is up to us. We understand that Western civilisation, as Professor Robert Toombs told the IPA earlier this year, is an action-packed adventure story of innovation. And innovation depends on good ideas, testing those ideas, and articulating and spreading those ideas. Freedom must be embedded in the next generation and the one after that. So we will continue at the IPA to produce fabulous materials for schools, Australian schools. We'll continue to take our ideas onto university campuses. We have 1,000 young members of the IPA today. Imagine what that number will be in a year's time, and a year after that. And this, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, is not the snowflake generation. This is quite literally Generation Liberty. Young members hungry for ideas about the dignity of individual freedom and, of course, individual responsibility, keen to be part of a thriving civil society, and yes, learning about and understanding the morality of free markets. These terrific young Australians are engaging in robust debates daily with other Australians. Now, as you saw today, and I haven't had a smile across my face for as long when I saw that lineup of young students out there on campuses across this country. Well, we have 13 campus coordinators. Last year we had 4. Next year we hope to have a campus coordinator at every single Australian university. As you can see, Generation Liberty is literally our future. And each week, James Bolt and Pete Gregory produce a fabulous young IPA podcast. John Roscombe and Andrew Bolt this year have been telling us about the great books, I think you'll see that, of liberty. And I can't wait to see what the IPA will do next year on that front. Our YouTube videos continue to attract bigger and bigger audiences, and we're always there. When you turn on the television, you turn on the radio, you pick up a newspaper, there we are. Our voice of freedom in the public square gets more and more influential each day. And we know that our voice will get even bigger next year in the future because we've doubled the size of the IPA's own media arm, IPA Media. Our work with young Australians, that's what excites me the most. It's why I'm part of the IPA. Passing on that moral, intellectual and material richness of freedom is our responsibility. And next year we'll be starting the IPA Academy to further educate young Australians. So if you think 2018 has been a great year, well, get ready for 2019 and beyond. Ultimately, of course, my optimism comes from people, from the people who work at the IPA. Magnificent people, smart people, good people who are motivated by the ideas of freedom, and they are genuinely special to work with. Our team, John Roscombe, the executive team, our entire staff, our directors, our chairman, Rod Kemp, who has led this organisation for a decade, and may I say our development team. Rachel Guy, Deb Sims and Sian McDonald, it is a great honour for me to work with these women. They are amazing women for me to work with, and they work with you as our supporters, and they are the glorious beating heart of the IPA. And you met our newest addition, who's National Manager of Generation Liberty, Renee Gorman, another wonderfully inspiring young woman. In case you haven't noticed, we don't have quotas at the IPA. We don't have diversity policies, and yet look at what we produce. Our optimism comes from people like you, from our members, from our supporters, and from our donors. You support the values that drive prosperity and freedom. And as proud as I am to be part of our you believe in this great country. I hope you'll enjoy the evening. Thank you.